G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life. And for the last 8 months or so I've been driving around this absolutely fantastic Lexus ISF, but there's no denying that it is not a particularly affordable car. Most of these are around $30,000 or $40,000, and if you're overseas they tend to be a hang of a lot more. And for the longest time a lot of people have told me that for just a third of the cost you can get one of these, a Lexus IS350. Now naturally it's not an F product, so it doesn't have the big 19-inch wheels and the sporty suspension and the big V8 motor, but for all intents and purposes it's a very similar car that makes a very large amount of power. And today we're going to be seeing if it's worth spending nearly 3 times more for an ISF over a standard IS350. In terms of the exterior styling, when you see them parked side by side like this, you can really see how Lexus pumped up the F products over the more standard IS of this generation. This one has obviously the larger 19-inch wheels. It's got the widened fender flares, the more aggressive front bumper with big air intakes to cool the brakes. There's a little fin down the side here to help feed air out of the wheel wells, a splattering of F badges here and there, and of course the big quad tips at the back, which unfortunately are fake. The engine fitted to the Lexus IS350 is the 2GR FSE. It makes 306 horsepower or 228 kilowatt and 375 Newton meters of torque, and paired up with a 6-speed automatic transmission sending power to the rear wheels. The ISF on the other hand has a 2UR GSE. It makes 414 horsepower or 311 kilowatt and 505 Newton meters of torque, going through an 8-speed automatic transmission, again sending power to the rear wheels. But the really surprising thing is when you start to really nerd out and look at the specific outputs, this makes around 87 horsepower per litre, this only makes about 82, and this makes more torque per litre as well. So much to my surprise, the IS350 actually has the higher strung engine when compared with the ISF. Now obviously because this is a larger V8 it does make more power and torque anyway, but this is certainly shaping up to be quite a potent little weapon. I'm going to be honest, I pretty much can't really tell the difference. The center stack is identical. This one also has the Mark & Levinson stereo system. The shift knob assembly is all the same. This one happens to have heated and cooled seats, which is quite nice. The seats in this are slightly different. They're a little bit more plush and a little bit more squelchy. The ISF has some little F badges down here and an F badge on the steering wheel, but other than that, they are literally the same. Driving the IS350. I must admit, on the face of it, there's not massive differences between the two of them. This is a little bit more comfortable and the steering's a little lighter, but the engine is still a very potent little unit. Now, the problem is, like with my ISF, it has immense difficulty putting down the power in the wet. The transmission is maybe a touch smoother, and you know, for downshifting and so on, even though it doesn't rev match like the ISF, it's a little bit smoother to go down the gears. I think the ISF can be a bit kind of jerky at times, and the 2GR is a really punchy power plant, man. It is no slouch. It's a typical naturally aspirated engine where you have to get the revs up, but even though I don't have much grip at the moment unfortunately, if you get on it, man, it's a quick car. The only thing with it is I just wish you could hear the engine a bit more. That's one of the coolest parts about the ISF, is that loud induction that opens up at 4 grand, whereas this, you can hear a bit, but it's not anywhere near as loud as the ISF. I think one of these with an intake would sound absolutely fantastic. And the other thing I do like about it is that even though the 6-speed auto doesn't upshift as quickly as the ISF, and unfortunately the pedals on this act like a gear limiter rather than a gear selector, the thing I do like about it is that something the ISF doesn't really do all that great is it will skip gears. So if you plant it, look at that. Oh, that kickdown is impressive. And if you just need to go and overtake someone, or if we had a rolling race with these two, mate, if you both started just sitting in D, I would back the IS350 every time, because that kickdown, just foot to the floor, look at that. That is really impressive. Let's see how the handling is through the roundabout. Yeah, it feels, oh gee, but understeer. Feels pretty similar to my ISF, but I just think the tyres on my car are just a lot better. This generation IS is a really nice luxury, comfortable car. It's great. So wrapping up, IS350 versus ISF. The big thing this car has going for it is just the sound. Apart from the annoying shift beep, which I don't mind, but I know a lot of people don't like, this thing, when you take it right to the rev limiter, sounds absolutely stunning. And unfortunately, even with a few mods, a V6 is never going to sound as good as a naturally aspirated V8 engine. I've heard a few of these with exhausts on them leaving car meets, banging off rev limiter, and my goodness, do they sound utterly fantastic. And IS350s with the same mods, a lot of people kind of look at each other and go, oh, there goes another yobbo. And that's going to be the problem with an IS350, is that as much as it's a very, very good car in its own right, it's always going to be the lesser model. And if you're okay with that and you've only got 10 grand to spend, then you're going to love it. It's going to be a fantastic car. But this is just a better car to drive. The steering feels a little bit better, the brakes are better, it's got the sound, the transmission, while it's quite sort of low rent and can be a bit jerky at times, is just that bit more direct, and the fact you can hold it in a ratio makes all the difference. So to summarize, I would say that the IS350 is 70% of the car the ISF is. It's lacking a little in the transmission department. And I guess the other thing too is that it kind of has no soul. It's just a good car, but I don't exactly drive it and go, oh, I've got to have this, you know. But if you look at it from a purely logical perspective, you know, I'd say it's 70% of the ISF for 30% of the cost. And they are some pretty good numbers if you ask me. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Kiwi Car Life, and I will look forward to seeing you again next time.